So we're all set, Bob.
Yeah, he's changing an hour. And welcome to the Raleigh Board of Selectmen meeting for November 16th, 2015. The time being 7:03. I call the meeting to order. And our first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could bear with me for just a moment. I would like to have a moment of silence for the problems that happened over in France, in Paris, this past couple of days. And if we could just for a second or so. Thank you. Okay, citizens' queries tonight will be from 7:05 p.m. till 7:10 p.m. And at 7:15, we have an appointment with Conservation Agent Brent Bazelak to discuss the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission spectrometry program. We will now go to general business item number 1. Notice from Georgetown Planning Board regarding public hearing on a special permit and site plan application filed by Healthy Farms, Inc. for the proposed registered marijuana dispensary at 401 East Main Street, Georgetown. And this is a public hearing notice, Georgetown Planning Board. In accordance with the provisions of the Town of Georgetown zoning bylaw, Article 17, Section 165 to 158, Article 18, Section 165, 161, and Article 13, Section 165, 83. The Georgetown Planning Board will hold a public hearing on December 9th, 2015 at 7:15 p.m. on the third floor meeting room at the Georgetown Memorial Town Hall, 1 Liberty Street. To consider Healthy Farms, Inc.'s special permit application and site plan approval regarding a proposed proposal for a registered marijuana dispensary, RMD. Development consisting of interior improvements within an existing structure and associated exterior site improvements at 401 East Main Street, Georgetown, Mass. 01833. The property is located in an industrial B zone district and described as Assessors Map 14, Lot 4, and as Registry of Deeds Book number 11857 and page number 80. A copy of the application and plan is on file at the Georgetown Planning Board office and may be inspected Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Any person interested in wishing to be heard regarding this application should appear either in person, by agent, or by attorney at the time and place designated. Howard Snyder, Town Planner, Georgetown Planning Office. Published in Newport Daily News, November 20th, 2015, and November 27th, 2015. Bill Barino Romano, attorney, BGR Law Firm, Inc., 109 State Street, number 404, Boston, Mass. 02109, 617-307-4728. And the reason we're actually doing this tonight, reading this so that the public will be aware of it, is that this also abuts the town of Raleigh on Havel Street at the Georgetown line. And it's in our water protection district, well protection district, is where this is right next to. So I believe the planning board is looking into that too.
Well,
Cliff?
we are looking into, in fact, at our last meeting, we had a discussion about this proposal, and I think we'll probably have another discussion at our next meeting, but I think we talked about sending the Georgetown Planning Board a letter expressing our concern for the potential impacts of that Zone 2 area,
Right.
and asking them to carefully consider the stormwater management issues, which you hoped they would do anyway, but
Yeah.
beyond that, I mean, I don't think there's much that we can do. Georgetown has apparently amended its bylaws to allow these marijuana dispensaries in this area, so it would be an allowed use in that district. Even though on our side of the line, we don't allow retail uses in that area, but
Right.
Georgetown is free to do so under
Well,
state
it
law.
is their town, so.
Yeah, it is their town.
But the one thing we gotta tell them is that we got the cannon, so be careful.
Okay, I'll put that in the letter.
We will load her up. We will load her up if we have to. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
in addition, the water board, I believe, is sending the water superintendent, maybe a member of the board,
Okay.
to the meeting also. They're concerned about it being in the well protection district number 2, so they're gonna be over there to get some facts and
Good.
see what's going on.
Yeah,
So,
at least they can, give their,
yeah, just to get where it's in the protection zone.
exactly. So. Okay. So, that takes care of the general business. Okay, general business, new business number 1. Actually, it is after 7:05, so we can open the citizens' query for at least 5 minutes at this point. It's actually 7:10. So we'll open it for 5 minutes so that we can pick up our appointment at 7:15. Okay, I don't see any hands raised or people jumping up and down trying to get on citizens' query, so we can skip down to new business, although that's gonna take a while. Got some letters to read. Why don't we go to the minutes of August 10th, we'll get that out of the way right off. Has everybody had a chance to, or if you need some time to look at them, I'll give you 5 minutes.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay,
I was quoted properly.
okay.
I'll give you a motion to accept the minutes of August 10th, 2015, Mr. Chairman.
second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to accept the minutes of August 10th, 2015. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I abstain because I was absent. So all those opposed, motion carried. We've still got about 3 minutes to go to get to.
Maybe read the announcements.
Well, we could do that too if you want. That'll be easy.
Mr. Chairman, we do make a note that it indicates approximate time.
Approximate
This is not an
time.
advertised hearing, it's 7:15.
Okay,
We indicate on the agenda that
It's
these
approximate.
yeah,
appointments.
yeah, I see the asterisk now. Okay, so we'll go right to Brent. Conservation Agent Brent Bazelak to discuss the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission pictometry program. So, let's see, I know I've got a message here, my other folder.
Just like in the football games, all these red lines are gonna be on all our properties.
Yeah, you've gotta get across here to get to get a, first down, so. Raleigh Conservation Commission, Tuesday, November 3rd, 2015, 5:02 PM, to Deborah Egan. Subject MVPC Pictometry 2016 request, interest, LRT to Rowley, interest letter to Rowley. Dear Debbie, the attached letter has been received and I am forwarding it to the Board of Selectmen. I would be happy to present this request to the Board of Selectmen. Note that it includes an update on both the neighborhood and community imagery. It also is subject to the MVPC, Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, getting enough community to participate to make the arrangements hit a critical mass of North Shore communities. And so Brent has written us a letter, and it's from Brent Bazelak, Conservation Agent, 139 Central Street, Rowley, and read 2016 Pictometry Flight. Dear Municipal Official, as you know, Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, MVPC, has been conducting regional purchasing of oblique angle aerial photography through Pictometry International Corporation for nearly 15 years. The purpose of this correspondence is to offer your community participate in the upcoming flight. Scheduled for the spring of 2016, MVPC will be conducting a flight for the region only if we have full participation among all our communities, so please make every effort to have your community included. Please keep in mind that payments can be made over 2 fiscal years, and the first payment is not due until 7/1/2016. By signing on the signature line below, you are committing your community to the financial obligations specified below. Once signed, please make a copy of for your records and return the agreement to MVPC. Attention, Dennis DiZoglio. DiZoglio. Okay. Executive Director, in order for us to ensure that your community is flown in the spring of 2016, we need this agreement returned no later than December 4th, 2015. Thank you for your participation. We look forward to delivering you the product. Sincerely, Dennis DiZoglio, Executive Director. Okay, the purchase for community and neighborhood images is going to be $9,736. So Brent, you want to add to it and then maybe give us some background as to what this provides for us?
Yes, good evening, Chairman Mary and members of the Board of Selectmen. I'm going to direct your attention to the screen installed in the Selectmen's office here, where we're displaying the online web-based interface into the aerial pictometry images for the town of Raleigh that were flown in April of 2014. Specifically, what we're looking at is a property that abuts the Dodge Reservation, or 390 Weathersfield Street. This is 344 Weathersfield Street, formerly owned by the Grahams, and now presently owned by 420 Newburyport Turnpike LLC, which is the Ipswich Bay Glass organization, which they purchased the property. My reason for displaying this on the screen was kind of to give an overview. Now, the letter from Merrimack Valley Planning Commission mentioned 2 words, community and neighborhood. That's referring to 2 resolutions of the imagery or photographs that are taken. What you're looking at right now is called the neighborhood imagery. It's as close up as this particular type of imagery gets. Doesn't exactly allow you to identify license plates, but it allows you to identify cars, sheds, and you can sometimes also see, because a car in a shed can be as small as 10 by 12, you can sometimes also see where trees have been removed, especially mature oaks and pine trees that have canopies that are anywhere from 40 to 60 feet in diameter. The Conservation Commission became aware of this property in the course of my doing the boundary marking for the newly acquired open space conservation area. If you look carefully in the upper left-hand corner, you can see the outline of the pool. Now, this was prior to it being upgraded, so again, you're looking at a snapshot of April 2014. It's flown when the leaves on deciduous trees have not popped out yet in the spring, so you can get a fairly clear or a clearer view, as clear as you can, without having all the broadleaf trees having leafed out. The evergreens obviously still have their needles on them. We're looking at a boundary from where some of the tent platforms are, between the pool and the red line that forms the boundary, which also happens to coincide with Batchelder Brook being part of the joint boundary. You do see a straight line directly below the pool used as a reference point that kind of, if you extended it, it would go stab into the residence that you see there. That is, again, the joint boundary with the town property being on the upper part of the screen, and formerly the private property of the Grahams, or now the Newburyport 420 Newburyport Turnpike on the lower part of the stream. There had been tree cutting taking place in the floodplain and the 100-foot buffer zone of Batchelder Brook, actually because it's a perennial stream, has a 200-foot regulated area, which directed the commission's attention to activities on the private parcel, which turned out to not be in compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act or the Town of Raleigh's Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Recently, with 420 Newburyport Turnpike buying the property, they demolished the residential structure and engaged in a permit request to basically remove scattered debris, demolish the house, and extend the parking lot, which you see on the extreme right-hand side, which is the Ipswich Bay Glass, one of their distribution warehouses in their complex there. So the Conservation Department utilizes this imagery for a number of purposes. It utilizes it for management and protection of the natural resources of the town of Raleigh. It utilizes it for administrative and enforcement activities for the Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Raleigh's Wetlands Protection Bylaw. It uses the imagery in review and permitting purposes for applications that are submitted to the commission. And it also provides a unique ability to see the relationship of one property to the other. I had never gone across the stream and walked to the residence that was located on that property, so I had only driven in on the driveway from Weathersfield Street, and I didn't understand until looking at the imagery the very close proximity of Batchelder Brook to the residence, the relationship of the boundary lines. Now, they are approximate, but they are a pretty good representation, because when you're out in the woods, you don't see those little red lines.
Okay.
And therefore, you gain an understanding of the relationship of one property to another. And in this case, with Ipswich Bay Glass performing an expansion of their parking area or whatever, we were also able to see the relationship of their pre-existing complex, which again, you have to access from Route 1 Newburyport Turnpike. So this gives a unique ability to understand the relationship of abutting properties, whereas you don't have the normal access to those properties isn't by that route. So sometimes you don't quite understand the relationship and who exactly abuts who, and where these resource areas are and how close they are sometimes to pre-existing commercial activity in this case. We are not the only department that utilizes this. My appreciation is extended to the Board of Selectmen, who decided, I believe, in 2012 to, instead of having the departments on an individual basis take portions of their meager expense lines and try to put them together to meet the requirements of obtaining the imagery from Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, the Selectmen decided that since there was broad usage by a number of departments, police, fire, health department, inspectional services, zoning board of appeals to a limited extent, planning board to a great extent, and obviously conservation commission, again to a great extent, utilizing this information, that it was decided that that would be moved into an article for general budgetary consideration, which town meeting did pass. So I'm here to request again that the Board of Selectmen look favorably upon this as a tool that's very useful to the various town departments, and that hopefully you would agree. It does lay out the fact that if there is not a critical mass of other communities in the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission's regional area that sign on to this, it might not happen. But this would be an appropriate time to consider this. The real estate downturn has pretty much reversed. Most all lots that were permitted in the period from 2006 to 2008, most all of those developments have been built out. I believe Wild Pastures Estates, which recently came to the board to seek road acceptance, was pretty much the last subdivision that had lots that have been now fully developed and the street accepted. I believe the Cindy Lane Bell Circle is probably the next subdivision that's in that category of hopefully will soon be finishing up to seek street acceptance. My point in this is that there more than likely will be parcels and subdivision proposals coming before the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission. And it would be good to have this imagery updated, since now 2014, between 2014 and now, we have pretty much had most of the permitted lots have been developed, and therefore we can anticipate seeing new proposals for property that previously has not been reviewed or scrutinized. And again, this tool is very useful in helping provide a comprehensive review that protects both the quality and the nature of the development and protects the environment and the natural resources of the town.
Okay. Is there any questions?
Just one
Comments?
question, Mr. Chairman. Brent, there's a 2-year pay is available. In other words, the letter said that we could pay it in 2 years.
Yes.
Now, is this a one-time flyover? Do they fly over once a year, or how do they?
Well, if
How long is this good
they
for?
gain enough communities signing on, yes, they perform the flights at one time, and the preferred time of year is the spring
Right.
before leaf out. They gather both types of imagery, the close-up neighborhood imagery and then the little further out community imagery is all obtained within the same flight pattern, which I believe is computer controlled so that the appropriate angles. What makes this imagery more useful than what you can access online is that when you go to Bing or Google and look at the imagery that's available from the state, usually always the trees are all in full leaf out. And number two, this particular software allows one to perform a number of things that you cannot do with Bing or Google Maps. That is, you can accurately measure distances to within a few feet. You can compute areas. You can actually compute the height of buildings, which is particularly useful to the fire department in knowing what ladder truck they possibly need to send to which complex. And needless to say, it's also useful in police situations, public service safety situations, where again, they can get an aerial view, they can understand how close occupied dwellings might be to a structure where they have some type of public safety concern, and they can understand routes of access and stuff that again may be useful. And for some situations which we have developed in the past, such as when folks have gone missing from their neighborhoods and we've had to conduct searches, this then also allows you to scope out areas such as streams or ponds where there might be an issue of concern in regards to someone getting in there and not necessarily being able to extract themselves. So it helps you run appropriate searches and to cover territory that, again, you might not be knowledgeable about just looking at things from roadways.
So in other words, you're getting one flyover to cover you for 2 years, and then they'll come back and.
Well, this has just been decided that usually within 2 years, you've had enough building and development activity that it might be useful to have the new imagery to show those new activities. Excuse me.
Okay, anything else?
I think it's a useful tool for
Yeah.
for planning and for, as Brent said, fire and safety. And has everything we need.
Yeah.
You know, especially
I agree.
for planning the town.
Just, Bernie Cohen, Weathersfield Street, just to clarify, we already have this imagery? All these images are currently available to all the boards that need them, the police, the fire?
At this point in time, but it's old photos,
Old meaning,
meaning it was done in 2014.
2014,
right.
April
so-
2014.
So the majority of the applications and the usages are already taken care of, is that correct?
Well, but the data is stale also.
Well, I mean.
This particular area that we're looking at as an example, there's a new stormwater basin been constructed in that area. On the very extreme right-hand side, those are 45 to 48-foot flatbed trailers that Ipswich Bay Glass stores their aluminum and glass composite panels on. That area has now been reconfigured. There's been more tree clearing that's occurred in that area to expand the trailer storage area. It's really hard to say. It's really hard to say exactly how useful new information is. But I'll pose the question another way. I like to, as the staff person for the Conservation Commission, I believe that the best information you can present to the board helps the board render the best decision possible. And if the information is current, as opposed to being 2 years old, then if there's some relevancy there, it would be expressed in the imagery. It's hard to speculate and tell you that, quote unquote, something might not happen correctly, or that some type of synergistic response due to not quite knowing what the relationship of one development is to another. But again, I can only say is that I do like to present my board with the most current, up-to-date available information, and it's hard to know what type of application we may get. We've had at least 2 inquiries between planning and planning and the Conservation Department in regards to people making preliminary inquiries about subdivision proposals. So.
I mean, just,
It just seems to me as though it's basically $10,000. You already have, I would estimate, probably given the rate of growth and development in Rowley, probably 95 to 98% of the functionality already baked in at this point. And so whether you renew it in 2 years, sign up for it now, or essentially say, well, we'll sign up for it in 4 years, you're paying $10,000 for essentially a minimal gain in benefit. Any particular issue that comes up, there'd obviously be a on the ground inspection at the same time. I mean, I just.
but you don't see
Once it's
the same picture walking on the ground. You really don't. I look at this map and I say, okay, we've got the boundaries there. The plan comes into the Conservation Commission. They lay it on the table. Okay, the boundaries are on the plan, but are they right? You hop on the computer, you type in a couple of code names and a number, and up pops this thing, and you can
Yeah,
lay it
but we
out.
have that. I mean, I'm not questioning the fact that this isn't a valuable tool. It clearly is. The issue is how frequently do you need it updated to basically secure the value of your original investment.
Well, if there's a new development coming in, you need it that day to get that boundary line.
Well, lot lines change, if you're using it for, to look for, identify wetlands violations, I mean, those can
Exactly.
change overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 years seems, reasonable to me.
And that's only, I mean, you're saying $10,000, it's only $5,000 a year, which is not bad, considering the information that we get back out of it. I mean, I realize you sit there and you see it from a different angle, but you have to sit over on this side of the table to see it from the angle that we want to present. The information is valuable to these
Well,
departments.
I'm not disputing that. I understand that.
already acknowledged the fact that we have the information. The issue is what's the incremental.
We have the information, it's right there, but it's 2 years old, so it's not correct, or it could very well not be correct. I mean, you want the best information if you're gonna go after somebody because you think they're in the wetlands, and you find out after you get there that if we had the pictometry, we would have known that it wasn't there. But we looked at the older information, and now we've made a mistake. We don't wanna do that.
I'm going to interject again here. Again, the decision to possibly participate in this program, again, is that, just possibly participate, because it's dependent upon, again, whether other North Shore communities within the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission's region sign up for this. The town did sign up, and we have available to us the 2014 imagery, 2012 imagery, and then there was a gap to 2007. 2007, though, was pretty much the height of the depressed real estate market, and so the decision was made to not seek to have the flights done until 2012, because most communities looked at the permits they had issued that had actually been acted upon, i.e. built, and felt that there hadn't been a lot of building activity to occur. So in retrospect, there has been varying time periods between where these flights were actually commenced and undertaken.
One clarifying point is that the letter from the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission says that all of their communities must sign up to participate, or they won't.
Yeah. And when you think about this, it makes sense, because you have these airplanes on a computer tracked course or whatever. It's not like they can just turn the cameras off when they come to a municipal boundary, because they're taking these images at a predetermined, calculated angle in order to give you the views that then have to be very carefully planned and coordinated so that you then can use the software to make the measurements and get the fullest usage out of the imagery. And so so there are some other factors here that even if the town of Rowley chose to say, yes, we'll sign up and we'll participate in this, it's if it does happen.
I think Larry had it.
Larry, yeah.
Yeah, I just have one question on the time frame. According to what I heard, you had the full participation by July 1st, 2016. And so I would imagine that any flights would take place after that, or probably April 2017.
Well, yeah, in the middle of July, we'll have leaves on the trees, so they're
Right,
gonna wait till
so-
fall.
No, if I can clarify, that's not, the budgeting procedure, the budget will not be charged to the town until July 1st of 2016. So it'll be on fiscal 17's budget.
Yeah,
And
FY17,
the flight
first
would be
payment.
in April,
Right.
before the leafing.
Leaves out, yeah.
Okay, April of 2016.
Right,
And if I heard correctly,
Yeah.
the sign up is in December. They won't-
provided you sign up before December 4th.
Can the oblique angle be changed at all? Can you rotate it so that you get a better picture? Are you forced to only that one angle?
No, the little camera symbols at the 4 points in the compass are the different compass directions, and right now I just changed it to looking straight down. So you actually have 5 perspectives that this imagery allows you to utilize.
It's much more in depth than Google Earth or
Oh, yeah,
and much
it's-
more
right.
detailed.
Yeah.
And plus you have the boundary lines, was something you don't get with Google Earth.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to just add too that as the town attempts to regulate property and enforce conservation restrictions and conservation issues, and the planning board uses it, we're dealing with people's property values and people's property and legal decisions, and I think it's incumbent upon the town to have the latest information available. I think it's I feel it's derelict on our part if we don't If the voters at the town meeting don't want to give it to us, that's fine, but I think it's one of those issues where we're, you know, it can affect a great many of the citizens in town when you're able to have this stuff available to you and the other boards. And I think it's incumbent upon us as the leadership of the town to give our boards the best information we can at a reasonable rate. And yeah, $10,000 is a lot of money, but it sounds like, you know, from the use you get out of it and the enforcement ability and treating people in a fair manner when they come before your board and other boards, that it's a valuable tool, and I think we should, I would vote in favor of the proposal.
I was a little bit derelict in also saying that it allows the Conservation Department to be much more responsive to people who direct inquiries to us over the phone. I don't have any empirical data I can give you, but I can tell you that it has greatly helped me decide when I actually need to visit a property and when I don't need to visit a property. It has allowed me to provide much more responsive questions to phone inquiries about pieces of property, be they already previously developed, which I get many inquiries about folks who are prospective buyers who will call about properties and want to know if there's any relationship to either streams, lakes, ponds, or regulated wetland areas. Even though they're not asking that question in that way, they still profit by knowing that information. And then there's the other consideration where it also allows you to make that decision that you really do need to go to the property to visit, that the particular nature of the question really does require an on-the-ground visit, and therefore you can arrange that. But I have found that therefore increases the quote-unquote level of response. By making that decision, you're able to better make that decision in the office than I was in the past prior to the town's use of this particular type of imagery. I can't speak for other departments, but again, it gives you a unique perspective that, especially where conservation, planning, and health are constantly fielding calls every day about prospective buyers who expect you to have some familiarity with the piece of property that they're interested in, and that familiarity can lots of times be greatly enhanced by this imagery because the file in the file cabinet is only got a two-dimensional plan that may or may not even be the as-built plan of the property, and it usually doesn't show any of the natural features that may have an implication on what you're being asked about.
Yes?
Yeah, I just have one question. Brent, can an individual property owner, once you purchase this, or even if you purchased it in the past, 2040, can an individual property owner ask you for an aerial photo of their particular property? Has anyone ever asked you for that?
They certainly can, and they have.
Okay. So they can get something with the actual red boundary lines on it? Okay.
Well,
No? Yes?
you can, but you're going to hear my standard footnote to anything I give somebody that has these lines on it. These are not what they call survey registered
Okay.
to the aerial imagery, and therefore I have seen them, especially when you have boundary lines adjacent to driveways. I have seen them on the wrong side of driveways. I've seen them down the middle of driveways. And so therefore, you can expect that anywhere from 10 to 20 to sometimes 40 feet.
I was just gonna ask.
And
plus or
sometimes that
minus.
has to do with the angle, because you have to
Okay.
remember computers don't know everything. Computers are just trying to give you a visual display, and in this case, they're taking a surveyed line which only exists on the ground, and you're seeing it on top of trees. So right off the bat, you know that that line isn't
Okay.
really where it was intended to be. But again, it gives you a level of information that is not accessible anyplace else, and helps you in being responsive. And yes, I've provided people with imagery in a number of situations to just assist them with either understanding a prospective property or just giving them a unique view of their particular property, which they didn't have before.
Just a follow-up question on that, 'cause that's a good question, are the red lines coming from the tax
Yes.
information?
Yes, the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission specifically, their services are engaged by the Board of Assessors for the assessors' maps, which depict the boundaries of property and are updated on a regular basis to show either real estate transactions or for new recorded plans and creations of lots, A&R, approval not required, plots or subdivision plans. So those boundary lines, yes, do have at least the relevancy that they come from the same boundary depictions that our assessors utilize.
So I would then draw people's attention to the fact that those are, have significant errors in them. They actually, my property had, the neighbor put in a septic system based upon the plot that they had received. The engineers had taken the tax layout and it was 30 to 50 feet off. And that meant they put the field in on my property and had to pick it up and move it. So those red lines, obviously some places they may be accurate, in other places they can be egregiously wrong. And that's a personal, and you can actually see it when you, because I had to kind of overlay the tax plot with the actual register. We had a registered deed, so our real survey lines drawn, and it was a 30 to 50 feet kind of.
Well, I think there's no doubt that if you're gonna put a septic system in, or a house, or add a building, that you had better get your lot surveyed before you do it. This isn't intended to take the place of that. In other words, you as a homeowner or a landowner need to be assured that otherwise you're gonna be in court.
Yeah, there's no
Or it costs you a lot of money to remove
licensed surveyor
something. So
stamp
this
or
is a
anything like
different
that.
issue of here, as far as, it gives you a general picture. I know myself, in the number of years I've been a selectman, I've gone over to see Brent and Girl Scout property. We looked at these views. I think we did it with Brad Street property.
Yeah.
We've done it with the lots that we own up on Weathersfield Street at the corner of Route 1, just to get a survey of what, like here, you can see the vegetation, I mean, it's a valuable tool that I think we need to keep updated. It's one of those issues that it's like when you buy a computer, you replace it every 2 or 3 years because of its capabilities and the information it gives you and the ability to do stuff. Maybe it isn't a lot in some years, but it's something that we need to keep up on, and we owe the public that, as far as I'm concerned anyway. So I would make a motion that we.
I think we're very lucky to have the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. I've been
Yeah.
on it for
It's a great resource.
8 years, and it is a great resource, and I think pictometry is a great resource for the town. Think of how many boards in town use this product, so.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Who signs it, Deb?
I believe the chairman did.
Oh, thank you.
Sign your life away.
Exactly.
Would you like to sign the original one?
Sure. If you're gonna go, you might as well go top shelf.
Thank you very much. for
You're
your
welcome. Thank you for all you do.
consideration.
Thanks, Mike.
One last time, Prospect Hill, that's gone.
So I'll put this in our folder, right? This is our original? Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll leave it in the, or do you need it back, Brent?
No,
Mr. Chairman, we need that for our file
Okay.
for the minutes. So
Yes, yes, make a copy for her.
Yep, it's in the appointment
Yeah.
folder.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's all set, Brent? We're all set with you? Is there anything else you need to add, or any questions for us?
If there's any other service I can offer to the board this evening, I'm not your.
Oh, as always, you're right on, spot on here. Very good. Thank you for coming in. Okay. So now we can go to new business number 1. That's general business number 1. New business number 1, discuss letter from Town Clerk Susan Hazen. Certificate of recall of Water Board Commissioner Timothy Toomey. The Board of Selectmen has received a certificate of recall of Water Commissioner Timothy Toomey from the Board of Registrars. Chairman Murray will read the certificate into the record and enter the petition documents from the Town Clerk Susan Hazen into the record. In accordance with the town's recall bylaw, the Board of Selectmen, upon receipt of the certificate, shall forthwith give written notice of the receipt of the certificate to the officer sought to be recalled. Chairman Murray will read a letter to addressed to Mr. Toomey, notifying him of the certificate. Chairman Murray will call for a vote to sign and direct the town administrator to send the letter to Mr. Toomey. This is Board of Registrars, Raleigh Town Hall, 139 Main Street. November 13th, 2015, Raleigh Board of Selectmen. Attention, G. Robert Murray, Chairman. Recall petition against Timothy Toomey. Dear Sir, upon receipt of the signatures of at least 100 registered voters of the Town of Raleigh, recall petition sheets are issued. Town of Raleigh, Recall petition sheets were issued on October 16th to the Miss Mary Ann Lavassa towards the recall of Water Commissioner Timothy Toomey. At that time, Town Clerk Susan Hazen issued a receipt certifying the number of registered voters as of 4:30 p.m. on Thursday, October 15th, to be 4,442, thereby making the minimum required number of signatures to be collected to be 1,111. We, the Raleigh Board of Registrars, do hereby certify that the 1,303 signatures certified on the recall petition exceed the requested 25% of the registered voters currently listed on our voters list, and ask the Board of Selectmen to proceed with recall procedures according to legislation entitled Recall Election, Chapter 637, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, 1989, an act providing for recall elections in the town of Raleigh as found on pages 55 and 56 in our general bylaws. And it's signed by the Board of Registrators and the town clerk. This is a letter to Timothy Toomey. It's November 16th, 2015. Timothy Toomey, 355 Central Street, Raleigh, Mass. Certification of recall petition. Dear Mr. Toomey, pursuant to the terms of Chapter 637 of the Acts of 1989, the Recall Act, the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Raleigh, the Board, hereby notifies you that at its meeting of November 16th, 2015, the Board received from the Town Clerk a certificate dated November 13th, 2015, to the effect that a petition seeking a recall from the Board of Water Commissioners had been determined by the Board of Registrars of voters to contain the names of at least 25% of the registered voters of the Town of Raleigh. A copy of the said certificate is enclosed. In accordance with the terms of the Recall Act, if you fail to resign from your position as a water commissioner within 5 days from the date of this notice, the board will order a recall election to be held at not less than 60 nor more than 90 days after the date of the said certificate. Please note that under General Law, Chapter 41, Section 109, No resignation of a town officer shall be deemed effective unless and until such resignation is filed with the town clerk. Sincerely. And it's basically the signatures of the Board of Selectmen. Enclosures, 1 Board of Registrar's certificate of petition to recall Timothy Toomey, and copies to Town Clerk Susan Hazen with enclosures, and copy to Town Council Thomas Mullen with enclosures. So does the board wish to act on that?
I'd like to make a suggestion about a little part of the language of this, in particular the second paragraph where it says, if you fail to resign from your position. That seems a little bit harsh to me, and I think it could be read as, it implies that we're actually seeking his resignation. And it's not the language that the statute uses. So I would suggest that we change that to say, unless you resign from your position within the 5 days that this will happen.
Mr. Chairman,
Might
that
be a
was
s-
actually written by Town Council Thomas Mullen,
Right.
so I put on what he had provided in the body of that letter.
Yeah, it's a subtle distinction, I admit, but, again, you're always safe when you use the actual word of statute or a law, and that's what you would be doing, using that actual language.
Well, I think we need to really get this out, and I'm not sure that we would even have time to,
I doubt if Tom would have a problem with that. I really doubt that he would have a problem with it.
well, I don't know. We'd have to, I would want to check with him just to make sure that we don't get ourselves into another.
Yeah, the law says we have to act forthwith, so, forthwith does nothing. It's not a specific deadline. We're acting forthwith. I don't see there's an issue about that.
Well, he only has 5 days after the date of certificate, and the certificate's dated the 13th. So, and we've already lost 3 days, so he's only got 2 days left, basically, on that.
Oh, okay. If you don't feel comfortable changing the language, I don't see that it's a big deal, but,
Well, it's up to, what do you
It was
think?
written by town council,
Yeah.
I would feel, he's the one who's gonna have to defend it if it's challenged, so I would say that, the intent is he has 5 days to resign.
Yeah, I know.
One way or the other, so if he doesn't resign, then we'll have an election, so.
Yeah.
I would, I'd move that we, forward the letter, sign the letter and forward it as written.
I'll
5
second.
date of the date of this notice. This notice is the
Yeah.
16th.
16th, yeah, okay.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor. All those in favor of the motion? And that's gonna
Make a
be,
motion?
Dave,
Dave-
I made a motion.
Dave, will
okay,
that,
I'd second it.
will that include the motion that was read before that? That was part of something I read here before. That was that one. That was the register's letter.
I'll make the motion that we're upon the receipt of the letter from the Board of Registrars, that we send the letter as written to Timothy Toomey for his recall.
Okay. That's gonna cover it, Deb?
Yes, I just need the board to, if you decide to do that or edit it otherwise, to make sure that you make a motion that upon receipt of the petition and the certificate, that you vote to send a letter.
Yeah, I
to
think
Mr.
that's what I
Toomey
was,
notifying
Yeah, that's
him
what
of the receipt.
that's my,
that's what I was trying to get Dave to say. Make sure that was covered.
yeah, in other words, my motion is to acknowledge the receipt from the Board of Registrars, their letter,
Yeah.
and in turn, we send the letter as written by the town administrator or by the town attorney to Mr. Toomey, advising him of his rights under the recall petition,
Right,
to be signed by the Board of Selectmen.
yes. So we understand that, the motion at this point? So the motion still stands as, it was.
Do you wish
offered
another
and
second,
seconded?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Do you wish another second to that? The amendment?
No, it's not
Well, just an explanation of the.
Just a clarification.
Just a clarification.
Just clarifying the
The
motion
original
itself.
motion.
So, okay, is there any other,
Do you accept that
Yes,
clarification?
I'll
Okay.
in the second.
Okay, so we've got a motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I don't know if that was,
Sign the letter.
yeah, we need to sign the letter. Was that a unanimous vote?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, the signatures down here. Thank you. So that brings us down to the minutes of August 10th.
We took care of that.
We did that.
Took care of that, so we're all set there.
It's not there.
Announcements. Friends of the Public Library Holiday Basket Raffle. The town has the following vacancies. Shellfish Commissioners, 2 seats. Cable Advisory Committee seeking 5 members. Fence Viewer, 3 positions. Wood Lumber and Bark Inspector. Zoning Board of Appeals, 1 seat. Zoning Board of Appeals Associate, 2 seats. Historical Commission, Historic District Commission, 2 seats. Parks and Recreation Committee, 2 seats, and Open Space Committee is seeking 1 member, which we may have found already, so I think we're working on that one. For more information on these positions, please contact the Selectman's office at 948-2372. And Rowley Food Pantry is in need of donations. The food pantry is open Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and Thursdays from 5:30 p.m. till 7 p.m. I think that's pretty much it.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, could you just make a brief announcement that what's running on RCM right now says November 13th instead of November 16th?
Okay, yeah. To clarify, the RCM broadcast is dated November 13th and should actually be November 16th. And we would like to make sure that when they do the editing on that we get that taken care of. Okay. And we do have a motion on the floor to adjourn. And as a motion to adjourn takes priority, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, who made the motion and who seconded it?
I made the motion.
Joe made the motion, and did Dave second it?
Sure, I second it.
Dave seconded
Won't argue with that one.
it. Well, it does take priority, so we don't have much choice. Okay, that's it.
Is that right, though? When you get a motion to adjourn, you stop what you're doing.
Absolutely, somebody.